Hey guys, Darren Carr here, coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to another episode of our round preview series. On today's episode, we will be previewing round 8, and yeah, who would have believed that we are already a third of the way through the season? So after round 8, we'll be a quarter way through the season, which is mind blowing. Just feels like yesterday I was doing pre-season content, and yeah, here we are already. So without further ado, let's sort of just get into the trade in trade out targets. So we're here on the AFL website again, looking at the main trade out targets so far for the round. Obviously, it's a Wednesday night, so we've got a game tomorrow night. So these figures should be pretty good. Starting off with Jeremy Sharp. So he is currently being traded out by 8.1k of coaches. And I do think it's a pretty good option. He's probably more on my lower end of the scale of, trade out targets. I do think there are quite a few other priorities to get out, but at the end of the day, his break even's now up to 76. His average, so it snuck over his average of 71.3. So that's always a good indicator that it's time to move these rookies on once their break even reaches over their average. So I do think he is ready to go. He did lose a 3k last week, so had his first drop in price. But in my opinion, I do think if you have other priorities, he is worth holding. He's got Richmond this week, so he could definitely put up a decent score there. We did see last week that Ed Langdon put up a ton, and even Billings had a high 70, so could expect a similar score from a Sharp here. In terms of his priced out figure, he is priced at 65, so that possibly leaves 5 to 6 points left on his head if he can have a decent score and jump up again. So definitely one to watch. I do like the move if you're moving off of him because you're getting another week ahead of the pack. But yes, if you're stuck with a few other priorities, I do think he's worth the hold. Moving on to Oliver Dempsey, who is number 2, being traded out by 7.4k of coaches. He's probably on my lower end as well. Has the break even of 76, so very similar to Sharp. His average is 70, so again, time to move him on. He's probably my preference over Sharp, just given that his scoring has dropped off quite significantly in the last sort of 3 to 4 weeks. He's put up a 72, a 70, a 40, a 54, and a 50. So yeah, he's quite a liability in that forward line. But again, who else are you fielding in that forward line is my question, I guess. There's such a shocking year for forwards at the moment. So if you need to field him, then I don't mind holding him, that's for sure. He can definitely put up a decent score for you. And he does have Melbourne this week, who on paper you think would be a tougher matchup. But when you actually look at the DVP on the DFS website, Melbourne are actually a green matchup for them. So he could be a decent option. Has had Colton last week, who were a tougher matchup, then had Brisbane before that, who is, where are they? They were an easy matchup, so bit of a mixed bag there to put up 250s against, a tougher and an easy opponent, so it's really, you don't know what you're going to get in terms of his output, but again, who else are you fielding? Probably would prefer to field a Dempsey over a Garcia, just given, time on ground and that sort of stuff. So that's probably where I stand. Definitely Harley Reid. If you got Harley Reid still, he's probably my number 1 field option. And then you've also, maybe if you have a Wilson, he's probably that other option I'd look at fielding as well before a Dempsey. So there's that. Riley Sanders, yep, if you don't have him, it's probably time to move on. Very similar to probably Dempsey in terms of, he's got the forward status now, so if he does end up going back into the side and playing a full game, so he's not the sub, which will be sort of hard to tell because I think they play Sunday, so that'll be, a bit of a tough one to sort of tell there. But he could be worth a hold and be a fieldable option for you. Obviously seen some decent scores, but I think all the news out of Bulldogs is that he's going to have a run in the 2s for a little bit to just gain some momentum and put up some, get some form going. So I'd be very surprised if we see him come back into the Bulldogs side this week. Teams will obviously be out tomorrow. Well, not the full teams. We'll have the squads for the Bulldogs, but yeah, we'll see if he's included in that. But yeah, definitely if he isn't named, time to move him on. Has a higher break even anyway, so he's not going to make any more money. But very similar to a what's his name, Kobe McKercher. It could definitely kickstart his cash generation again if he can get a full run of games instead of these 2 sub games that he's had. Moving on to Zach Vischer, who's number 4 here, 7.2k of coaches are trading out. I think this is a great option. He is, probably higher up on my radar of moving on. I luckily moved him on last week after the sub news that we got early on. So yes, he will sub and scored to 34. So his break even now up to 106. So he's only averaging 70 for the season. So he is going down in cash and will be going down quite rapidly unless he can pop a big score. Be a bit of a watch to see if he is the sub again this week. I'd probably be pretty surprised if he was, to be honest, with a few probably magnets they throw around. I expect probably Phillips to drop, so that probably opens up a spot for Fisher to come into the main 22 again, or 23, whatever you can call it. So will be a bit of a wait and see there. It's a tough one for me because obviously I've been quite bullish on Fisher the entire first month of the season, so I do think he can definitely go above this 70 average. I think he could easily push 90 in the right role, and obviously with the likes of Sheasel probably moving out of that defensive 50 a little bit more, then that could give him a lot more opportunity, but it's probably it's not worth holding him for now. Just move him on. He's going to lose a bunch of cash and looks a bit out of favour at the moment in that side. So when do they play? They play early on Saturday, so that's not too bad. You'll be able to tell if he is in the main squad, and we should be able to sort of tell if he is going to be the sub or not, hopefully. But yeah, that's Fisher. Moving on to Zach Williams. So Zach Williams is my number 2 to trade out this week. Obviously, just hasn't been getting it done. Obviously, a huge sub risk after having a knock 2 weeks ago with that 28. Scored a 60 on the weekend, so nothing too bad. But his break even's up to 75. He's averaging 65. So another great indicator to move him on. Only world I see where you should be holding him is if you need him on field, but I don't think many of us do. Obviously, after DPP came through, a lot of us have spare defenders to throw back, so I'd personally be fielding, a Roberts or even a Closey or a Graham over the likes of a Williams, and there's no point putting him on your bench. So just trade him out. Don't have that coin on the bench. Get that upgrade that you need, mainly in the midfield, I'd say. So I think it's a great target to move him on. Tom Powell's an interesting one this week. Obviously been quite a talk of the town with what his role was going to be this week. I think my thinking is, like the majority, follow the pack, as most people are just going to hold him and wait and see for a week, even if he is going to lose cash, because it's like, who are you trading to? If you don't have a McRae, maybe that's a good point to jump off of. Go to him, because that's a bit of a downgrade. He banks you 9k, and just depends what you can do on the other side, because you still want to try and get that upgrade on the other side, right? So, I'm personally holding. I don't want to see it one more week where he is moved out, because I do think he's been sort of a shining light for North over the first 2 months of the season. So, I'd be very surprised if they don't throw him back in. Phillips, like I said, probably gets dropped, and then he is back to those sort of 70 to 80% CBAs, which we know he can score in, so, and can be a top 6 forward for us. So, if I didn't see him as a top 6 forward, then I'd probably be looking to jump off, just because at the end of the day I was looking to trade him anyway. But because I think he could possibly be a keeper for the season, I think it's worth one more look. So we'll probably reassess it next week. Has St Kilda, so they're not a terrible matchup. But I think that's my views on there. But again, there's definitely potential that you could jump off of him. Obviously 4.8k of doing it. So if you like I said, if you can get another upgrade on the other side of it, then that's ideal, because most of us will be doing 2 rookies down to and get a big primo in. So then you may fall a primo behind in that case. So just some thoughts there. Luke Jackson is on the list as well. I think he is probably the number 1 trade-out target in my view. Scored 2 goals and kicked 2 behind and scored a 61 last week, and he dropped 40k. So now has a break even of 122. He's just plummeting in cash. So this really hurts for those that are holding him. Didn't have as many ruck contests as we sort of would have thought. I think it's just what they're looking to do. We saw a lot in the preseason that he was playing a lot more forward with Sean Darcy in until he went down with that injury. So, if you're holding, I think you're just hoping that Sean Darcy gets injured again, which it's probably likely, but we don't wish that on players. So, I'd personally just be moving off of him, and he's around that K. It's just pretty much just straight swaps for a McRae if you're looking for a forward option, or it's not too much to get up to one of those top dog midfielders. So I definitely would be jumping off of him. He's going to be plummeting in cash. I want to do numbers now. So Aaron Cadman is the next one. I think he's a great option to jump off. I think a lot of these maxed out rookies are great options to jump off of. It's just if the money on their head gets you to that player that you're looking for. So 400k, 425k is pretty tricky in terms of trying to get them up to a main primo. So it depends who you're getting. So like if you're got, let's just say for example you've got a Dempsey or a Cadman that you're looking to trade out. Well, Dempsey has extra 100k on his head, 125k. So if that extra 125k gets you up to that top tier primo that you've been targeting, that has a good run, even has a good buy, whatever you're looking for in terms of your ideal trading target, I'd personally be moving off those higher guys that have a bit more money on their head, and you can hold a Cadman for an extra week or two until you get that opportunity to jump off those guys. So that's just where I sit with that, but I do think he's still a great option, like I said. So his break-even's 53, he averages 53, so yeah, great indication there. Has Sydney Swans this week, so will be probably a tougher matchup, I would say. You're probably just hoping he can kick it back. Has kicked a goal in his every single game this season, which is surprising. I don't know how many would say that they have done that. So, as having a pretty good season and was a very good starting pick, I believe. Massimo D'Ambrosio definitely needs to go. Obviously, was dropped last week, managed. Sorry. So, I think he is one to move off of if you still have him. Surprised so many people still do have him. 3.5k, has too much money in his head. 560. That is not too bad of a jump off to get to a decent guy. So you put him and a Dempsey or a Sharp together, then you get up to over $1 million price midfielder. I think that's a great option. So get him off. I'd be surprised. He might return to the Hawthorn side, I think, this week. So see what happens there. But yeah, definitely jumping off there. Harvey Gallagher put up an absolute stinker on the weekend with a 32, so his break-even is now up to 61 and has stopped all his cash generation. Again, very similar to a Cadman. Awkward price at 422k. And yeah, needs to be moved on. It's just, again, can you get up to that other player? So it's tricky because, like, if you say you're trying to put a Cadman and a Gallagher together, that only nets you 800k. You've got to allow 200 or 300k to get another rookie upgrade, another rookie downgrade. So you've really only got 500k to spend, sort of thing. And there's not many players around that mark at the moment, unless you're grabbing a suite. So not too bad there. Seth Campbell, exact same. I've played around with moving him on as well. So break even of 52 and average of 52.6. So great indication there. I'm looking at holding Cadman this week. Just, like I said, awkward price doesn't get me up to the player that I'm looking for. So yeah, maybe I'll look to move off next week if the price is right. Brody Grundy is an interesting one after having a bit of a stinker this week. 72. We did speak about that in the review, that it definitely could have been a lot worse, and he just had one of those games where he really struggled, and it's just so inconsistent. I don't understand why. Obviously, coming off that 142, just hasn't been that pick to start the season that we sort of thought he would be, and the thought of him being a potential holder for the year is definitely long gone. So, yeah, jump off if you can. Just who you're jumping to, I guess. Are you downgrading to a Sweet, or you're moving on to a Tim English? I guess you wouldn't be touching Rowan Marshall. You could be going to a Gawn if you don't have Gawn, so I don't mind moving him off. I think people are doing the same with Tristan Sherry as well. Probably 1 week too early in my view for him. Be interesting to see who Sankey would name, if it's just going to be Marshall. Marshall, it typically isn't too hard of a rock matchup from memory. So let's have a quick look here. Yeah, it's a light green, so it's not the best. But then he does come up against 2 tougher opponents next week. So I'd probably hold 1 more week and then look to move off next week if you can. Sorry to jump forward there a little bit, but yeah, Connor Rosie, I would be holding now. So obviously we got the news yesterday that he passed the fitness test, and he has been named for the showdown tomorrow night. So I'd definitely be holding there. Even if he is a late out tomorrow night, I'd personally be holding, because it's definitely going to be only a 1 week. So yeah, that's just my view there. Has a great buy, so hold your primos, make an upgrade elsewhere. That is very fortunate for those owners. Lane Dersma, yeah, perfect time to move him off. He is now losing cash, as I said, for the last couple of weeks. Lazaro, very similar. Big sub-risk for him, as we've seen over the last sort of, month of footy. Has put up some decent scores, but yeah, definitely has stopped all his cash generation now, so time to move him on. Jai Clark is one that is interesting again this week. Obviously, he has no money on his head, so it's not really worth trading him at this point, because really you're only netting maybe 50k at most to really move him on. So he's just sort of a dead rookie on the bench at the moment, and I wish I could move him on, but he's provided a decent looping option. I would love if he had forward status, but he doesn't, so don't mind holding him. He may be back this week, given that Danger is injured again, so we'll have to wait and see on teams. If he's named, there's probably no point moving him on. He's going to lose cash anyway. Maybe you're lucky and he puts up a decent score and kickstarts his cash generation and can find some form. That's for sure. Been a terrible pick to start the season, unfortunately. Rowan Marsh, I'm in the same predicament as the rest of us who have him. What's the competition? 17. So it's fairly unique in terms of ownership across the competition. Huge break even, 158 after 2 back-to-back really poor scores. We did speak about that. This could have been a lot worse after he came back on after a big knee injury. Reports are that he didn't train on, Tuesday, I think it was. So, but I don't think that's too much to worry about. I'd say he's just, managing the week of training, having some light training duties, and then he should be good to go for this round against North Melbourne. Well, it'll just be whether he has some support come in, like a Campbell, or you get a Jack Hayes, or you just see more chop out in what's his name? He does more chop out. So have to wait and see. Then Rowan Marshall still sits forward. So I do think he's a hold in my view. It definitely, if he plays as a hold, even if he plays more forward, I think he could kick a fair few goals. It's just like, who's his matchup back there? You got Biggie, who may do a bit of a job on him. Maybe Kerr, if he's playing. I'm trying to think who else has done it. Comden, if he's back there. But yeah, I do think he's definitely a hold in my view. Make some upgrades around elsewhere, and he should come good eventually. Still has a decent run as well. Where we're looking. So pretty much a great run till the bye, in my view. Obviously 2 neutral ones, and then a pretty good run of 2 light green and a green one. So that's what my view is there. All right, we'll do a few more here, getting low in the trade-ins. So trade out. Sorry, Comben can go. Yep, he has been a failed mid-pricer, unfortunately, for those that picked him up. After his big 107, that's just unfortunate. His role's been thrown around a lot, unfortunately. Obviously, got pushed forward one week and then did get thrown back the next week. Just not getting the points that we sort of expected after that first week, unfortunately. And last one, probably Jack Steele. Very similar to Rowan Marshall. Huge break even. No training on Tuesday. So I do think he'll be fine. It is a bit of a flag that both of them may be rested. If the game's in hand, they may sit on the bench. So, but I do think that at the end of the day, these two are both top of the line primos, and they will come good eventually. So, it's worth just holding on to them and sticking fat with this low slump of scoring. Yeah, hopefully just the bye can't come soon enough where they can have a bit of a rest and have a week off to get fit again. So that's where I see that. But we'll move on to the main trade-in targets now. I'll try and make this a little bit quicker because I do have a few other things to discuss today. Darcy Jones, probably be higher than what I sort of expected, to be honest, given all the pretty much all the content creators are saying this guy is a big liability in terms of his job security. Just given how many guys are there expecting to come back into this Greater Western Sydney side. Let's have a quick look. Did I go past it? I did. There we go. So you got Canelo, who's a test this week. You got Taylor Adams, who's definitely a lock to come back into the side. You got a Toby Green, who's coming back into the side for sure after his suspension. Then you've also got a Daniels, who should be, if he's determined fit, he should be back into back 22, the best 22 as well. So talking 4 guys, who drops out of there, that side is pretty questionable, and you'd have to think, even though he played a great game, kicked the 2 goals, won, did plenty of nice things and showed, he can be an AFL player. It's just they're always going to prioritise those other guys because they are in that premiership window. They are absolutely flying at the moment. I think they're top 4. So, tough matchup against, another top 4 side. So, you play your best team, right? It's just a bit unfortunate for him. And same goes for a Harvey Thomas. He could definitely be dropped this week. So, it's a big watch on him. If he is dropped, then I'd personally just be holding. He's a good looping option for you. He's got the forward and midfield status. So, there's that one. Number 2 is Jack McRae. I do think he's still a great option. He's obviously very cheap. I do think he'll just average sort of that 85 to 90. I don't mind that. So I do think that's pretty good in our forward lines. People are concerned with the Liberatore coming back in. I'm personally not. I've been quite vocal that he will maintain the exact same role. We'll just see Ed Richards be turned into another halfback. So that's what I think, and Jack McRae will hold down this role. So I have no concerns there. Pretty good matchup this week against Hawthorn. So could, have a good score. Has a pretty good run as well. So if you're looking for a forward, he is definitely probably the pick of them all for me. Jordan Sweet, obviously been quite vocally spoken about this week across all formats. Just obviously has a run of 4 to 5 weeks now. We saw that in the injury report. If I bring that up as well. Poor P. So you got Soldo out for 4 to 5 weeks. So looking at that gets us to round 12 if he's out for 5 weeks. So that gets us through to his bye. So even if he's out for 4 weeks, then you're just running him in round 12 by himself, obviously on the bench, because most of us will have 2 ruckmen that are already playing, unless I think let's have a quick look at the buys. Unless you're still holding Xeri, so he's the one. He could be some decent ruck cover, so I do think in that terms he is a decent option to jump on. Obviously he's very cheap. He's going to make probably 200k in the next 4 weeks, so big watch there. Hopefully he can keep up this scoring. Let's have a quick look at his run. Port Adelaide. So he's got a harder one this week, which is strange. I don't remember O'Brien being a tough matchup, but then he has a pretty good neutral run to the buys. So hopefully he can just do well for those that are picking him up. I'm still tossing up whether I get him or not. I'm still leaning back to getting him this week, just because don't want to miss out. And I do think with the whole Marshall concern that if he is rested this week, then Jordan Sweet's just a great downgrade target, and I don't think it loses me too many points on field, and I can still get an upgrade on the other side with another rookie off. So yeah, that's the way I'm looking at it. What else did I want to say about him? Lost my train of thought now. Yeah, but he's definitely high up on my downgrade targets this week. Moving on to Daniel Curtin, a lot of hype around this kid. Obviously, a lot of clubs would have loved to got him in for their clubs, but I don't think it's the week to trade him in, unfortunately. I do expect him to have a pretty decent role, like as a third tool down back there. So, and we know how much they love to just hold the footy back there. So I do think it's worth trading him in straight away. But I personally would be waiting a week, given I'm not really sure why he's coming to the side is my question. I don't remember any injuries occurring for Adelaide. So is he a fringe, and if he has a bad game, he's out? I just want to wait a week and see for sure. Obviously, he has a high break even with 35, so tougher matchup against Port Adelaide in the showdown. So yeah, I think it's worth waiting for me. Moving on to Ty Woden. Hopefully that's the way you say it. Ty. I can't remember. He is up there in terms of my trade-in targets for the week. Probably not up there as some of the others, but yeah, he has broken into the main squad for Melbourne. So I do think he's a great option. Obviously, -1 break even. He's going to make some decent coin. Has shown a decent scoring capacity of, he scored a 41, but then scored a 71 last week against an easy opponent. So I don't mind him for sure. If you're looking for a cheaper option, he is there. So I don't mind that at all. Bailey Dale is an interesting one that I've heard a lot of hype around, just given his role and how well he's been going. He scored 160 and 134 last week. So has a great run, as we've spoken about, especially for defenders. So let's have a look at... I don't know if he takes kick-ins. I probably should bring that up, but... let's go here. So obviously it has Hawthorn, Richmond to come, and then pretty decent run to the bye. So we've seen what last week the Swans did to Hawthorn, where they had, I think, majority of the top scorers were defenders just wreaking havoc with the ball. So it could be another ceiling score for him here. I'm personally not looking for a defender, so I'm not looking at him. But for anyone that is looking for a defender, I don't mind the option. My only flag with him is that, like I said, Liberatore's back, so that's going to push Ed Richards back, which is probably going to take points off Dale. Because that's the only reason why I think he's been scoring so heavily since he's come back into this as a full member of the side. So yeah, that's my only flag there. And I'm personally just avoiding at this point in time, just with other, trying to upgrade my team elsewhere, mainly looking at my midfield. Zachy Merritt. Sorry, I can't help but laugh because I've always loved doing Zachy Merritt. But he is a pretty good option in my view. Probably not my favourite option. He probably hasn't even made my top 5. So just given his price, he's one of the only players that are above $1 million. Does have a great run, but again, this time of year you're looking for value because, if it leaves you with nothing and you can't make an upgrade next week, then you're kind of stuck. I do think there are plenty of good options, that are 80 to 100k cheaper than him that can do a similar output in my view. So, but if you have the extra coin and say it still leaves you with an extra 100 or 200k in the bank, then that's a great option. He is just a safe play. He hasn't put up any sort of massive scores, like you see at 135 or a couple 120s. So he's just very consistent. Hasn't dropped below 100 yet this season. Has a pretty good matchup and has a pretty good run to the buys. So yeah, I do think he is a good option. Just probably hunting for that value is my advice. Sam Flanders is probably number 2 in terms of like forward options I'd be trading in. Obviously, a lot of the competition on him already, so you're just joining the pack at this stage. His is just the safest sort of option in that forward line, in my opinion. So great job, get on him if you're looking for a forward. Jake Rogers is probably one I didn't mention in my round review series. I think he's actually a really good option. He has made my number 2 spot for rookie downgrades because his job security looks absolutely amazing. He provided a lot on the weekend and looks like he's stepping up a little bit. Obviously, he had a poorer game last week, but you have that sometimes when it's your first game of AFL. So really showed last week that he can score. Obviously, it was only against West Coast, so we've seen some rookies go absolutely ballistic against West Coast, but I still think his job security is probably the best of the lot of those downgrade options. When you're talking to Jones, you're talking to Wade Woden, even a Garcia is around there as well, Daniel Curtin. So I just think his job security is one of the better ones, so he's probably a good option to bring in if you're shopping in this sort of market. Jordan Dawson is on my main trade-in targets for this week. I think he's a great option. Obviously, Port Adelaide are a tougher matchup, but he actually doesn't mind to play them. Sneaky peek, he is featured in my captain options later this video. So we've seen him go quite massive against them, and he is in some great form after going 155 and what should have been a 140. So yeah, I think he's good and has a pretty good run to the wires. Like look at that. That is just sex right there. That's what I would love to, jump on. So hopefully I can jump on him in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, he is quite expensive. So if you can't get to him, then there are still pretty good options, about a little bit lower than him. Errol Gulden is an interesting one this week. It's probably not the week to trade him in, unfortunately, given the forecast for the Sydney game. I think I looked at it today, and it was like about 40 mil around they could expect. So definitely not a game I'd expect from a winger who may not get around. It's going to be highly heavy stoppages, I'd say. So, the likes of Tom Green or Taylor Adams, you got your Heaney, you got your Parker, that should be included as well. So those sort of guys are just going to have a feast on this with tackles. So definitely could see, a few players get over 10 tackles in this game. So, but I definitely would be probably avoiding Gulden this week. But in the general scheme of things, I do think he is a great trade-in target for the season. You'd probably be holding for the rest of the season. So, yeah. Oh, and Tom Green's next. So, as I said, wet game. He's going to absolutely kill it this game. I'd expect probably 10 tackles at least. He's always got an in and under player, so he could probably have 40 touches as well. So, expect a big ceiling score from him, I'd say. So, if you don't have him, jump on him. I'm looking at him this week to sort of join the pack. 41% of owners, so I'm a bit scared with what he could possibly do for the, in that game, plus for the remainder of this first half of the season. Where are we looking? He's got a pretty good run. So Sydney, Essendon, Western Bulldogs, Geelong, and then sort of back end of the season isn't too bad either. So, which, you're getting him on those great runs, right? So that's the main objective with trading in these primos, that you want them on their best sort of runs. But at the end of the day, I'm going to hold him for the rest of the season. So it doesn't bother me too much, just picking him up while he's at a good price. And I do think this is a great price. We've already seen him. He's below what he started at, and we've already seen him go way over $1 million. So do expect still to this break even to come down fairly quickly after this week. Isaac Heaney is an interesting one again. I know a fair few people, if you don't have him, then you're looking to jump on. And my opinion's probably shifted a little bit with him. I do say he's probably a bad option, but I don't mind it now in terms of picking him up because, again, the forward line is just so shocking. Who else are you going to? He just looks like sort of a safe number 2 option behind what's his name? Flanders. So, yeah. Got rested last week with a 90. Still kicked the 3 goals. It's just the Parker thing still scares me off. what role is Parker going to have? Does that affect his CBAs at all? If we look at their CBAs real quick, have a quick look. He obviously still had 80 plus, so that's no concern there. It's just with another inclusion, and even an Adams probably should expect a little bit more CBAs. So what happens in there? Does a row bottom kick get pushed out? I probably don't think so. He's been playing really well, and probably he's so underrated for what he can do, but it would be very unfortunate. Does Parker play a bit more forward though? Is that my only other question? We've seen it in the past, so maybe we could expect Parker to get some forward status pretty shortly, and he could put up some decent scores in our forward line. So at the end of the day, half of our fucking forward line could be Sydney Swan players in say after the buys. So big interest there for me, but I don't mind it in the end of the day. I think he still will be a good scorer for the next month or two. So if you're looking in that market, then yeah, great option. I don't think his run is great though in terms. We did look at that a little bit. So GWS this week are tougher. Fremantle have been tougher on their day, especially at the Optus. So I'm surprised it's not more red. And Carlton are pretty tough as well before going to into the bye and Western Bulldogs. So yeah. Personally, if you don't have McRae, I'd be going McRae or a Flanders first. Then I'd be looking at a Heaney if you're really looking for that, more security. Because at the end of the day, I think you should only be running 2 rookies in the forward line max. Like I said, Reid and Wilson, sort of the only 2 I'd expect to be fielding. So yeah, if you're running 3, then you're really trying to get that third off the field, and yeah, Heaney can do that job for you. Alright, a couple more here because we've already been going for 40 minutes. So Sam Walsh, I do like Sam Walsh. Probably not my favourite option. Hasn't made my top 5 because he's just not getting it done as what we sort of expected. Obviously had a great matchup last week and still just turned up. Just getting so many of the touches, just not getting it on other lines, which is what I sort of prefer. I want him to be that main guy that they transition through and gets his hands on the ball and gets those marks, those extra 3 points are really handy. So probably one I'm not looking to trade in. Isn't super value, and there are a lot of other guys that are around that price that are more value in my eyes. So yeah, that's just my opinion. Cooper Simpson is an interesting one. I think I keep saying that. I don't mean to say that, but I'd personally be waiting a week on him. I know there's been a lot of hype around this kid, but he was a sub at the end of the day and only scored 28 in 58% time on ground. So not anything amazing, not anything to jump shadows or whatever the saying is. So definitely worth a week in my opinion if he can put up a decent score. So I'd probably be holding off. There's definitely better downgrade options. But again, if you're really strapped for cash and you really need that 200k rookie, then yeah, I don't mind him. Nat Fyfe is not a trade-in target in my opinion. I know he did put up a great score on the weekend with a 118, and his break-even's quite low now and has obviously a decent run. But he's still a mid-pricer in my view. I don't think he is going to be a hold for the season. There's obviously a huge concern with him obviously being a sub each week. Not the sub, but being subbed out. Just managing him. Obviously, he's 32. We have seen him have quite a few injuries over his career over the past at least 5 years or something like that. So I don't think it's worth bringing him in because there's a high chance that he will be subbed out in any particular game over the next sort of month. But if you're wanting to take the risk and he gets him through to his bye is obviously amazing, and yeah, I'm looking to hold him through until then if I can. Not too bad of a run. Obviously good this week, but he doesn't mind the contested stuff. So yeah, I'd be holding if you had him. If in terms of trading him in, probably would be not my preference for sure. But again, if you're moving off 2 cheaper rookies and this is all you can get to, then I don't mind it. Alright, a couple more here. Zach Guthrie, probably avoiding in my eyes, just given I don't know what his role is going to be. Obviously, filled that Stewart role last week with him being out. So what happens when Stewart comes back in? Does he get pushed into the midfield, which we've sort of seen him do in the past? Or does he stay at halfback and then his points drop off quite dramatically. Plus, he's 31. We know what Geelong do. They manage their players a lot, so there's every chance that he gets subbed out or gets managed in, the next fortnight or so. So I'd probably be just avoiding him, unfortunately. But I don't mind him. He's straight midfield as well, so yeah, I'm personally avoiding him. Nick Dacos, I still think is a great option. His break-even's just creeping pretty much to his average now. So break-even of 111. He's averaging just under 100 for the season. So I don't mind him. Still going to be top sort of 2, if not 3 in the defence line. But yeah, probably not the week to grab him for me, just given the Colton matchup. We've seen what Colton do, and they're pretty tough in terms of a matchup. Let's have a quick look here. So Collingwood go Colton, which is obviously a tough matchup. West Coast, who are neutral matchup, and then has a pretty decent run to his bye. So personally, I'm looking to pick him up next week against West Coast, where I think he can have quite a good game, and he should be pretty much bottom out of price by then. It's just the tag concern with a Hewitt running with him this weekend is enough to scare me off, I think. And I don't think, and to continue on with that, I don't think he is he's not being as massive as what we've seen him do last year, so he's not the massive priority trade-in for me. I think there's other guys that I can trade in that are going to put up better points in the end. Alright, last one here, Max Gawn. I think he is a great option. He's going to be part of the captains this week. You can already see what I'm doing. I think he puts up a very decent score again this week, and he's just clearly the number one ruckman in the competition right now and absolutely killing it. The only flag I probably would have is that he is carrying that Melbourne side so heavily at the moment in terms of getting them across the line, and could he be rested at some stage? Absolutely. That we've seen it quite often that these big men get rested. So yeah, just a bit of concern there. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. Maybe against West Coast in a couple weeks' time. So, but in terms of they've got some pretty tough matchups in until his bye. So yeah, shouldn't be too much of a concern there. Will Graham, if you don't have him, probably too late in my opinion. He's 450k, so you probably expect him to make another 100, if not 150k. So I probably wouldn't be jumping on him in my view. And Caleb Sarong will be the last one. He makes my top tier list. I think he's number 2 in my main trading targets, so I do like him very much. Obviously, great buy. Break even's 131 isn't the lowest, but he does have Richmond this week, so I do think he can go quite big. Just has been pretty, consistent over the last sort of month and a bit. Hasn't really seen the ceiling scores of 161 and 125 since the start of the season. So would like to see a few more of those scores, but it does have a pretty good run. Alrighty, but we'll move on. So we'll try something new here. I don't know how well this is going to go, but we'll see how we go. So to summarise my main trade out targets, if you can look here, put a little thing there. Hopefully you guys can see that. So my main trade out targets would be Luke Jackson, number 1. I think he needs to go. He's dropping in cash, and yeah, he is a big liability in your side. I don't think he's worth fielding over a rookie, that's for sure. Relied on 2 goals to get that to that 61. So that is a huge flag in my eyes. That could definitely be a 50 or even a 40 coming. So, which would just be devastating to your cash generation. Number 2, I had Zach Williams. I think he is another one that needs to go because a lot of us, and a lot of teams I've seen, he's just sitting on the bench because in my eyes he's not worth fielding over, the likes of a Roberts or a Graham or a Closey. Even a Howes is there as a sort of emergency. If you're looking at him, you've got McKercher, who's got defender status now as well. I just think he is one that can just be moved off. He's got decent money on his head, so move him off. Number 3, I had Zach Fisher. I think he's just a clear option to move off of. It's just the forward status is probably the only thing that maybe puts him lower on this list, because if at the end of the day, if you want to hold him and he comes back into the side, he can score 80s for you, if not 90s. So yeah, it's just a bit of a watch for me. He's going to lose coin, so that's the only reason sort of he makes this list. And if he's going to be the sub, he's definitely on the outer of this squad. Number 4, I had Oliver Dempsey. obviously huge trade out target this week, has maxed out in coin. Similarly with Jeremy Sharp, both have maxed out in coin. So yeah, you can flick them off and keep moving and rotating those rookies out. So, but that is the main trade out targets. We'll move on to the main trade-in targets. So hopefully you can see that one again. Trying a few different things to make it a bit clearer for you guys rather than just listening to me and looking at my face. So my main trade-in targets. So hopefully I have this in the right order because I can't actually see it. So Zach Butters is my number one trade-in target this week. Obviously, I think he's about to go big. He has a great run, so really, really great 4 matchups. So we'll look at here. Inside mids, Port Adelaide, Geelong, Hawthorn, and North Melbourne. Absolute dream run. So I think he is a great trade-in target. Rosie probably would have been on this list as well, but just given that injury concern, I've just avoided him at the moment. He's definitely not a trade-in target in my eyes, but he definitely was in my considerations given this great run. So, but Zach Butters, I think he is a great option, just given that run, decent price, awesome buy as well. So I think everything's sort of just lining up. Bit of a theme with the number 2 pick as well with Caleb Sarong. I think he is a great target, as I've said not too long ago, that he has a great run. Let's have a look here. Pretty neutral run in the end of things, but has a great buy, so I think he can put up some decent scores. And obviously that buy structure really helps, have your ultimate, your ideal 22 of each week. So he is one I would be looking to grab, pretty shortly before the buys. Number 3, I have Tom Green. Like I said, this week I think he goes ballistic with 10 plus tackles and probably even has 40 touches, or probably a bit, or not, probably not 40 touches, but high 30s. I think is definitely an option. Very handball happy, I'd say, but yeah, I think he can absolutely have a big one. What's his run like? So where we're looking, Joey Ice, it's a pretty good run, like I said. So he is number 3, decent price, going to jump up now. Jordan Dawson slips into 4th, just given probably the value that he sort of doesn't present. He's 960, so he's quite up there, but does have a pretty good run to his round 15 bye after this week, and I do think he scores quite well this week as well. Obviously, there's no more concern with him in terms of his role. I do think he is going to be sort of that 70% sort of midfielder for them. So, but yeah, I'm happy with Jordan Dawson there. And number 5, Nicky Dacos slots in there. And he is an obvious option, I think. Just he's down lower on the list, just given the few, like the Hewitt thing, and he's probably just not put up the scores that we sort of would have expected from a Nick Dacos at the moment. So that's the main trade-in targets. And finally, we got the main trade-out targets. So So we got Jordan Sweet, sorry, Jordan Dawson. Jordan Sweet is my number 1 downgrade target if you've got the extra 200k. We obviously the job security behind that, he's got to have that role for the next 4 to 5 weeks, so he's going to make 200k. I think that's just something that you can hide behind and is an easy pick. Can also provide some decent ruck cover for you in the buys if you're looking that way. If you say, like, if you have if you're holding a Grundy, or if you've got an X area that you're holding through into the buys. Rogers is number 2 in my eyes, just given that job security I think is a bit better than a few other guys on this list. So yeah, I think he can make some decent coin. Not the best role, but I do think, the job security is there. Hugo Garcia is number 3. If you didn't pick him up last week, I think this is probably the last week to pick him up. He's 312k. Has North Melbourne this week. It's just probably a bit of a flag if he plays this week. It's probably my only concern. So watch teams. Obviously had a pretty poor game last week, so yeah, it could be a bit of a drop, but I do think he'd be fine. Did have a lot lower time on ground this week, but a 41 against Port Adelaide is a tough opponent, so I do think he can jump up again. Loves a tackle, just needs to get his hands on the ball a little bit more. So there's that. Number 4, I had Woden. Obviously, I think he had a -1 break even, so I do think he is pretty good. Woden. How do I spell it? Woden. There we go. yeah, 250k. Can't really go too wrong with that. Melbourne have a pretty good run as well, so as long as he's in that sort of squad, I don't mind him. Also, the forward defender status probably bumped him up a few spots in my eyes. Just, yeah, that's pretty handy, that being able to have that flexibility. So, yeah, I don't mind that at all. And number 5, I had Darcy Jones. Yeah, just he's been jumped. I do like him because I do feel like he's sort of a cult hero, and he's very cheaply priced, and we've seen he can score. It's just, yeah, that the concern with everyone coming back into that side, I do not 100% sure he makes it, or he is potentially the sub. So yeah, that's just the way I see it. But I think that will do it for all the trade in and trade out targets for this week. So we'll move on to sort of what I'm doing this week. So not much has really changed in terms of my views for, this week's trade-in target. So still looking at doing let's have a quick look here, Dempsey and a Sharp. And I was going to a Sweet, he's not a midfielder, Sweet, and a Tom Green. That leaves me to 2k. So that doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, but I don't mind this, and this is probably my preference. But say if Marshall isn't named, then I have to move off of him, right? So then it would probably become move those two, move off a Marshall, then yeah, got 100k there. So I only need to find 100k to get up to a Tom Green as well. So still, I don't think that loses me too many points at the end of the day. I still think Sweet can probably do 80 to 90s. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. So, on the top line guys, I may be losing 10, 20 points. But to a Cherry, which most other people have, I still think that's probably maybe 5 or 10 points worse off. And yeah, then I probably only need to... I'm tossing up between whether moving off a cashed out price a rookie in terms of a Campbell, so that gives me 260k to play with next week, or I could move off even a Dry Clark, who's even cheaper, and really start... Oops. What did I do there? There we go. So moving off a Clark, who gives me less coin in the bank, but then moving off a really dead rookie who's losing coin, and he's just deadwood on my bench. So just depending if I want sort of a looping option is my only thing. I would like a looping option to get me through the rest of these sort of rookies. So I'm really looking for that sort of option. Don't really have one at this point in time. So Thomas could be quite handy if he is dropped, but hopefully it's not. Obviously, got Pink in the back line as a looping option. Doesn't really work this week because Howes plays after him, and Pink actually plays before all these guys, so it's a bit unfortunate. But yeah, overall, the bench health is pretty healthy. But that's what I'm sort of doing this week. I'll sort of just lock in that other trade for now. Hopefully that is good to go. Sharp. Why don't you let me do that now? Sorry, I was giving 2 seconds. Sweet. Not a midfielder. Green. I wish this would reset every time you changed it. Oh my god. This is why I like doing this on my phone, guys. This is a bit easier. Sweet. There we go. Bloody goddamn. So now Green moves into FM2. I really like the structure of this now. Being able to... Takes a rookie off my field. And then having Sweet as sort of that ruck emergency. See how he goes on the Thursday night. If he scores sort of like a 90 plus or even an 80 plus, I'll probably just take Marshall off and just go with that. I know Marshall on the bench doesn't seem good, but just given his injury risk, it's probably worth the option. Like I said before, probably not doing any looping options this week in terms of the back line because Pink plays before the rest of the two that I'm looking at. Maybe I haven't really looked at anyone else because Pink plays a 4th game in. So who's really there? No one really there. No point playing around with a Whitfield there. Don't think that's much of an option. Yeah, so a bit unfortunate there with Pink. It's just, yeah, how's this going to sit on the bench this week, I think. So Fielding, Graham, Roberts, Closey, McKercher, and a Reed as my rookies. So 5 rookies isn't too bad. pretty happy with those guys. If Clark isn't named, then there's a possibility that I could loop a Thomas if he's in. So that could provide some decent scoring. And looking at these matchups, maybe it's... Yeah. Well, can't do Roberts because he played in the exact same game, so that's a bit unfortunate. Roberts probably would be the one to move off of, just given that the weather in Sydney again, 40 mils, probably doesn't suit a player like Roberts. So I wouldn't be surprised if he drops quite a bad one, and he's a main trade target next week. He's sort of in my plans to be moved on there. So, but yeah, 600k. There's not too much to jump off of him. What else is there at the moment? Yeah, nothing I can really do on the forward line. I guess I could probably put Barnett on field and field a Garcia if he goes well. When does he play? He plays pretty early on. Obviously, Barnett doesn't play until later. When does Reed play? Reed doesn't play until Saturday night. So, yeah, I could probably do a Garcia as a looping option as well. So, I'll look to do that and, switch him on if he does well. Nat Fife is probably the only other one I wanted to look at. He plays Sunday, so yeah. But yeah, that will probably do it for the trade targets. Let's just move on to my captain options now. Oh, I should have done another. I didn't do my captain, so I should have done that. That's right. There's always improvement next week. So my top 5 captains this week, which will be a bit of it. Had done a bit of research in this one, so. Harry Shees was number 1. I think that's probably an easy option for a lot of people. Obviously, we've seen him go quite big this season, and St Kilda are a super easy matchup for defenders. So I think he will go absolutely ballistic here. We saw the likes of Zeeble go 168 against these guys last year. So I don't think that's out of the realm for this week. But he had only scored a 98 and a 116 against St Kilda last week. So I do think he is a good option there. I'm number 1. Number 2, have to go with Max Gawn. Don't have too much recent data on him versus Geelong, but back in 2021, which I know is a few years ago, back when he was sort of solo rucking, I think this is the first year that Jackson came in. He scored a 132, a 139, and a 141 against the Geelong Cats. So I think he could go quite big again. MCG loves MCG. So, and Cats obviously provide plenty of midfield sort of points. So Max Gawn pretty much is a midfielder and a ruckman too. So I think they're both great options. Number 3, I have Jordan Dawson on the Thursday night game. So I think he's a great VC option. I know Port Adelaide are typically a harder matchup, but I think just it's a showdown. Crows usually get up for this game, and Port usually choke a little bit. So I think, Dawson could have a big one. He scored a 134 against them last year, so that gives you sort of an indication of what he can do. And obviously, he's coming off the best form in the competition at the moment, with what would have been 140 pluses both weeks. So yeah. Number 4, I have Tom Green. Had a 136 and a 141 against Sydney Swans last year. Obviously, we spoke about the torrential rain as well, so I do think he is a great option as well. And then I have number 5, Zachy Merritt against the West Coast Weagles. He scored a 111 and a 128 against them last year. He's just super consistent. I do think he's probably more of a fullback C option, just given he probably doesn't have the ceiling of a VC, just has a very secure sort of 100 mark. A few others probably consider that didn't make my list in top 5. It's Flanders. Where does he play? We've seen some decent scores against Brisbane Lions, especially, but it's just at the Gabba, so there have been some restrictions there, being a tighter ground. Sammy Walsh was definitely high up in my considerations. There's just no data to back it up. We know that Collingwood are a pretty good matchup for midfielders, so I do think he can go quite well. Just needs to get his marks to really get that high ceiling score to really make that top 5, I think. Petrarca is in there as well. Obviously, the same matchup as Gawn. Geelong Cats give up plenty of points, so I think he could go quite well there. Bontempelli was also in consideration, but actually he's probably against his what's it called? Like a null team. He scored a 90 and a 108 against them last year, which you wouldn't expect for Bontempelli, who had an absolutely ballistic year. Just give me a second, guys. And another one of my considerations was Caleb Sarong here against Richmond. Really easy matchup, open wide ground of MCG. So I think he could go quite big there as well. So hopefully that gives you some good options in terms of, the captains. But what I'm doing this week, I'm looking at going Harry Sheezel into Maxwell, and I think that'll be pretty common this week. I think these two are very highly owned, so that'll be pretty big. But I could look at doing a Tom Green, but just my philosophy, I don't usually like to put the C on someone I've just traded in. So I'll probably avoid that for this week. But we're going to do something different right now for the final, 15-20 minutes of this video. I'll be doing some Q&A. So I have got some questions here that I've pulled from my round review series. So if you watched that, I did say that put your questions in the comments and I may read them out. So let's just go through some of these right now. So Razor Wing 10 has asked this question: how many red dot rookies can be how many red rookies can we realistically hold before there's too much of a liability? He goes on to say that he has 4 currently with a Reed, Barnett, Hasey, and Clark. So in my view, probably 4 is the max you probably want to have at this point in time, especially because, cash is still king. At the end of the day, we're still trying to generate that cash. But I don't think having, 3 is probably pretty standard at the moment, and I don't mind having 3. I personally have sort of 3, I think, with a Pink, a Barnett, and we can't Clark. But he may be back this week. They just provide good looping options. So this time of year, when you're trying to maximize those points on field, because we're now no longer into the best 18. I don't mind having them as sort of looping options in your field. So that's probably my view. Obviously you want to have as minimal as possible, though. Maximize your cash generation. It's just, how many rookies can you have that are actually generating coin? I think there aren't many options at the moment, but I probably wouldn't be doing a double downgrade. Is probably what his question's alluding to, is my view. You don't want a double downgrade. We try and avoid double downgrading as much as possible. I only suggested it in the best 18s because you have that bit of cover, but at the moment where you're fielding a best 18, a best 22, you want to try and get consistent upgrades as much as possible. So hopefully that answers your question, and I wouldn't be too concerned with 4 there on your field, not like on your bench. Sorry. You also said Lazaro and Campbell have leveled out. I wouldn't be too concerned with them, but you could definitely look at moving those 2 on for sure. Moving on to the next question, we've got Sam Rogers, I won't say the numbers, asking what is the best primo to trade in out of Merritt, Sarong, Dawson, Green, and Goulden. So if I had to rank sort of these 5 guys, so sort of looking at them here sort of thing, I'd probably have Sarong as number 1, as I've shown in my main trade-in targets. Just given that buy, great run, we've seen he's going to be super consistent. So I think he's number 1. I'll go with Green number 2. I think obviously has a great run, great price compared to a few these other guys on there as well. I think he's the cheapest one along with Errol Goulden, so I think he's number 2. Then I have Dawson at number 3. A little bit more expensive. He's got a great run. We've seen, the role's consistent now, and he looks super fit and most informed player of the competition, I reckon. Zachy Merritt is number 4 in my eyes, just given he's too expensive. You want to try and hunt that value, and you're saving 60 to 80k on these other cheaper guys. And then I have Golden at number 5. Terrible matchup this week, and just looking at fixtures, playing with that sort of thing, I don't think he has the best one, so I think you just put him at number 5. There, so hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully, but at the end of the day, you pick what you want to do. Next question. I didn't actually get the name for this one. I think it was like Use or something, so I didn't bother putting it in here. But problem players are Williams, Dempsey, Sharp, So I guess he's just pretty much asking me which are the priorities to move on. So of those guys you would have seen in my other one, I have Williams first because I don't think you're fielding him. So I need my hand here because my cameras are there. So Williams first would be my first trade out, and then obviously I think I'd go Dempsey, then a Sharp. So just ranking those guys. He did go on to say currently going with Williams and Dempsey to Jones and Green. I do think it's a good trade. Are there any other rookies to go with? We obviously spoke about that. You got your Wodens, you got your Rogers, who's probably up there a bit more. He's getting Jones in currently. I'd probably just stick with that if you're keen on him. Also, what trade do you like best? Williams to Green, Gordon, or doing Sharp to Sarong or Dawson. So he's pretty much asking me two different questions there. So sticking with his trades where he's going Williams and Dempsey to a Jones and Green, or he's going to go Williams to Green and doing Sharp to Sarong or Dawson. I'd probably just go with I think I'll go Williams to Green. I think that's probably the best option. I know Sarong's my number one sort of trade-in target, but I don't think it's worth messing up your other trade. I think Williams is a better trade-out target than the Sharp is, so there's that one. Got a couple more questions here, then I'll wrap up for today, guys. So then I got a question from Kath. Thoughts on bringing in Moore instead of McRae? Bever worries me, but does Moore get shifted a little bit as the season goes on? He also has dropped to 40 as recently as 3 weeks ago, but is less likely a sub-risk than McRae. So it's pretty much he's just asking me, would I go McRae or would I go Moore? And my answer would just be going McRae. I think he's a safer play. Better role in terms of getting around the stoppage, so he gets his hands on the ball a little bit more, in a better team as well. So obviously Hawthorn are quite shocking at the moment, so they're going to be super inconsistent in terms of getting the balls in his hands, obviously playing that half forward sort of wing role. So I don't know how consistent he'll be, but I do think at the end of the day he could be around that top 6 mark. We've seen it in the past where he has averaged over 90. I do think that is definitely in the realm of possibilities, and definitely on my watch list to jump on at some stage in this season. Just probably not quite right now. And if you can go McRae, I'd be going McRae because I think they're very similar price. I think Moore is just over 700k. Oh god, here we go, 707k. Yeah. And I definitely prefer the Western Bulldogs run over Hawthorns for sure. So yeah, I'd definitely be going McRae. I know he worries you, but I still think he's probably the best option we have. And last question we have here is from Jim. Who should I get rid of out of Williams and Dempsey? I think we've got to answer that before. I'm Williams before Dempsey, so pretty straightforward there. So I think that will sort of do it for the questions, Q&As for this week. So if you want your question answered next week and feature in the video, then chuck your questions in the round review series. So obviously next week, put your questions in there, and I may give your question a read out and hopefully give a bit more of elaboration on what I'd be doing, rather than giving you a simple a text form. But one last thing I wanted to do as well, which is probably a bit sneak peek for those that have stuck around to the end of the video, is something I wasn't sure I was ever going to do. So I'm actually going to be showing you my spreadsheet that I use religiously and I have been using for the last couple of years. Before I show you, this is my spreadsheet and I made this all personally myself, so please don't think go too much about it, but yeah. So this is my spreadsheet that I'm looking at here. Hopefully you guys can see that well enough. And what I want to discuss is my buy planner. I know I've had a few questions about my buy planner after last week's video. So to explain here, what I've got here is that it's nothing special. I think there's much better buy planners out there, but all it is that I've got the team on the buys for both of them, and I've got as I explained, I've got what my team's going to look like in that week. You can see who I'm trading out and who I'm trading in with the green and reds. And you can see the breakdown of primos and mid prices and rookies there. So You can see what the team's going to look like. I could break this down even further and go, defenders, mids, forwards, but I have another tab for that, so I'm not too concerned about that there. You can see the trades I'm sort of going to look to do in each of those weeks, and it sort of can make sure I'm planning ahead to see how much money I'm going to have, because it is a bit tricky when you're trying to, sorry guys, one drink. Yeah, so just trying to foresee what my plans are going to be. You can see my sort of trade targets during these weeks. So round 12, I typically target those round 15 players, because once you pass round 12, you're always targeting those players that have already passed their bye. So, in round 13, you're targeting round 12 players that have already done their bye, and they're going to play the rest of the game, right? So that's just my sort of view. And then here you can just see who's out during those buys and see my current structure, where I currently have an 8, but after trades I'm a 9, 4, 11, 6. And I do think the ideal structure is 8, 6, 8, 8. I don't think I've seen too much other numbers around there. So, and don't worry about this too much, that I haven't changed it since last year. If you're wondering what was up here, this is my last year's just template, so I've just pretty much copied and pasted this, put this down here. Probably should delete that, but haven't got around to it. So you're going to see here that obviously it's best 18 during those rounds, so this is the minimum, but ideally you want to have 22. So this is just a good way that shows that I've got a decent buy structure. I'll just quickly skim through the other tabs as well. This is my pretty much preseason wish list, so very messy in terms of what it is, but this is preseason where I was looking at all these players, color-coded to how well they sort of did it in the match simulations and practice matches. You can see my sort of preseason team there, preseason, pre-match sim, pre-practice, and then obviously pre-round 0 there as well. Then you have the finalised team, which I had sort of sitting there, so nothing too much to worry about there. I also do have my rookie sort of watch list, I guess. So all these rookies are sort of the highly drafted, top 30, and then obviously some highly respected names there as well, and just keep a track on them. This is my round by round sort of teams, just looking at what team I'm fielding, what they scored, what I sort of expect from them, if they're in or out, what my trades are, in or out. Oops, let me do that. My trades for the week as well, how much money I have, my team value. I don't know. This is what I play around with a lot, and you can sort of you can see what I'm sort of thinking about next week. So moving on to Robertson, trying to get a Nick Dacos. I already said that in the video, so I'm nothing too much to concern about my rank. So yeah, play around with this a lot, and I don't mind that. Next is scale of hardness. I think this is pretty obvious. So this is pretty much follows Cow's scale of hardness. So obviously the traders, big shout out to them. Wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for them. Yeah, so pretty simple. Defenders, midfielders, ruckman. So yeah, I do look at this a lot. You can see the rounds that we've passed, and you can see the lines that I've marked out as pretty good runs. Probably needs to be a bit updated, because yeah, that's a pretty good run there. And finally, I just had rolling 22. So have 2 of these. So this is my starting one for the year that I sort of predicted, and this is sort of what I expected, what I saw after last round 4. I am due to upgrade to amend this after this round, so I'll chuck that there. But yeah, not looking too bad in terms of best 22. You can see I've got Tom Green in there. So, but yeah, I think that'll sort of do it. I just wanted to sort of show you that, to show you what I mean in terms of a buy planner and how you should be structuring up in sort of future planning each week. So I know we're still a fair few weeks away from this, but yeah, it's always good just to have a quick look, because I saw that I'm quite heavy in round 14. So over the next few weeks, I'll make plans to move off a few of these guys just to get that down to where I need to, I think. And hopefully I can bump this up a little bit. And even round 15, looking at trying to bring in a few players. So looking at Nick Dacos next week, and hopefully a rookie in that sort of space, look like a Daniel Curtin is probably one to target. few more primos. Could go a Dawson before then, hopefully, as well. So I think I want to target sort of 5 primos per line if I can, ideally. So, Dawson and Dacos in here, push that up to 5. Already have 5 in here now. So, yeah. And hopefully I can get in maybe even a Rosie or a Sarong before this buy. I don't know. There's a lot of players I'm targeting. Just need to find the cash for it. As cash is drying up pretty quickly at the moment. But yeah, I think that will sort of do it. This is how we're structuring it for the week. Hopefully it goes well. I think the team's sitting pretty strongly. I think a lot of my primos have a pretty good matchup this week. So hopefully have a pretty good week. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I'll leave you with that, guys. Hopefully you've liked this video. Please leave a like and subscribe. Mention it to someone. We're on the road to 1K at the moment. We're about 630 subscribers, so getting up there now. Hopefully you're all enjoying the content. But yeah, hopefully you have a great week in fantasy and you absolutely kill it. Have a good one. Bye.